Welcome back. Today is massive. We finally have an update from MOE with a timeline regarding the Sengkang Green Primary School bullying case. Next up, a case that we featured early this year in January regarding a man who struck a boy in the face at a playground last December 2024. We have final context and sentencing will be done soon. Lastly, two uncles got into a scuffle, even though it was a one-sided scuffle. Do you call it a scuffle? A one-sided altercation? Okay, I've just finished reading MOE's release timeline regarding the Sengkang Green Primary School bullying case, and I am still processing it. I've read it like 3 times and I'm still processing it. I mean, we have now so much more context, so let's get into it. Okay, just for a bit of quick recap, Sengkang Green Primary School issued a statement that probably the victim has conducted some hurtful behaviours herself that might have caused to this whole bullying case to escalate. And the victim's parents asked for evidence and she will accept all consequences of MOE's decision if evidence can be proven. And now MOE has released the timeline and we will just go through this as briefly as we can, okay? The 3 students that were bullying the victim, we shall just name them students A, B and C, and the victim shall be renamed as victim. Okay, so it started at end April 2025 when the victim reported student A for using an offensive slur against her and another classmate. But it was also reported that the victim also used an offensive slur against student A. So the form teacher facilitated and made them, mutually apologize to each other, and probably, to make them go forward together as friends, as classmates. Now, in mid-July, the victim started requesting a seat change due to discomfort. However, the form teacher noted that the victim was also sometimes interacting positively, like friendship between the victim and students A and B, so the form teacher decided to monitor the situation, because friendships can be grown, can be manned. Now, on July 25th, the victim asked again for a seat change request, citing distractions from student A and B and also their use of inappropriate language. And the victim also reported that student C touched the victim's face without consent. However, the victim also admitted to using inappropriate language against student A and B. So the form teacher now once again guided them, make them apologize to each other mutually, so that they can move forward together as a class and as friends, as classmates. The form teacher also on that day informed the victim's parents of the plan of seat change for the next Monday and also will investigate student C's action of supposedly allegedly touching the victim's face. Now on July 26th, this was when the victim and the mother started receiving harassment calls and also that unalive threat voice clip which most of us have heard. So on July 28th, the school investigated students A, B and C and noted that student A found the victim's mother number from his parent and the one that sent the unalive threat was student C. All 3 students A, B and C have been reprimanded and suspended immediately and their parents informed. And apparently, the VP, the vice principal, also met the victim's parents, confirmed seat change and planned back checks post-suspension and also discussed peer support plan. This is probably the so-called safety plan that was also in question. And this safety plan was supposedly emailed to parents of the victim on July 31st, according to MOE's timeline. The school also assured further disciplinary actions like caning pending police investigations of the unalive threat. So on July 30th, the victim reported a classmate sprayed water on her. Take note, this classmate is not students A, B or C. This is a different classmate. And investigations revealed that the victim actually used a racial slur and hurtful words prompting the classmate's retaliation. Both students were counselled and the classmate's parent was informed with plans to update the victim's parents in person. And now on August 7, the school was informed of a bruise on the victim that was supposedly caused by student C. Student C allegedly swung his back during a dismissal and CCTV footage showed that the teacher was managing other students and did not notice the incident, and also no students reported it. The school has engaged with student C's parents and student C was caned on August 12. So disciplinary action was taken. So now on August 14, finally near the end of the timeline, the school has scheduled meetings with the victims' parents on August 18 to discuss actions and support for the students' return. And then we finally have August 15 to 16 where the victims' parents posted allegations on social media, which we all now have known. Okay, now that we have MOE's timeline, I think most of us can agree that the victim did engage in hurtful behaviors that might have escalated the whole bullying incident. So MOE now has had a 4 hours meeting with the victim's mother, and they have agreed that the victim will return to school and there will be no request for school transfer. I hope we can give the victim and the mother the space they need, and let's stop pointing fingers saying such and such forth, because ultimately in the end, what the victim needs to learn is she was also wrong for hurtful behavior. The bullies were also wrong, students A, B, and C, but all of them had their mistakes. We're not going to delve deeper into whose mistakes was even more severe. Obviously, the unalive threat is the most serious one, and that is still pending police investigations on how it will be handled. But for now, let's give them the space they need, and the victim should also learn that, she was at fault partially. Okay, we finally actually have an update on a story that we have pinned to the top of our TT page since January 2nd. It's about this man that struck out at a boy at the face until he had bruises, really red bruises, at the indoor playground in Westgate Shopping Centre, Singapore on December 22nd, 2024. So what happened was, this boy, 6 years old, was playing with a styrofoam wall and thought that there was this young girl, younger than him, 3 years old, that actually toppled his previous wall. So he then kicked out at a new styrofoam wall, or maybe he rebuilt it, and behind that wall was actually this 3-year-old girl. And when the wall toppled over, that 3-year-old girl also fell. This 3-year-old girl has a dad, and daddy was angry. Daddy went over to the boy and he struck out at the boy's face, bruising him pretty seriously, okay? Daddy then went over to the boy's mother and scolded her without giving her context that he actually already struck out at her son. She was only informed later by a friend who witnessed the whole incident. The police has been called and he was arrested on 22nd December 2024. Now, on August 20th, 2025, the 39-year-old man has pleaded guilty to an assault charge and he'll be sentenced in September. I hope this update gives us some closure, because we didn't know further context about the case earlier. At least now we know the daughter is 3 years old and a 6-year-old boy was actually having a dispute over, his supposed styrofoam wall that was earlier disrupted by the 3-year-old girl. So, daddy's method of dispute resolution is definitely wrong here. It was supposed to be a typical Monday night at 10 PM when Uncle A, 80 years old, was just walking along the footpath near Block 236 Bukit Batok East Avenue 5, Singapore. Until... this is your last story of the day, follow us for more. Until Uncle B, a food delivery rider and age 52, collided into him and just rode off without saying a thing. That collision caused Uncle A to have great pain at his hips and thighs, so he sat down on a bench to ease himself while cursing at Uncle B, not even doing a thing or saying sorry. Guess what? Uncle B heard that. He dismounted from his PMA, personal mobility aid, and walked over to Uncle A and proceeded to strike Uncle A at the face, causing Uncle A to fall down. When Uncle A tried to get up, Uncle B struck him one more time, this time in the chest, causing Uncle A to fall down for a second time. Take note, Uncle A is 80 years old. The elderly are really fragile, Any fall could potentially be their last. Any fall could potentially be the end of their legacy. I'm sure Uncle A was just enjoying the night breeze, having a walk along the footpath at 10 PM, not expecting a potential end to his legacy from a PMA rider out of the blue. Thankfully, a 21-year-old woman witnessed the assault, helped Uncle A and called the police. Police later tracked down Uncle B and arrested him. Uncle A, being 80 years old, was hospitalized and miraculously discharged on the same day with no visible injuries. But you need to know, no visible injuries doesn't mean no injuries. It could be injuries covered by clothes. Now, Uncle B has pleaded guilty to one count of voluntarily causing hurt and an additional charge of rash act causing hurt considered during sentencing. Uncle B also pleaded for leniency, citing health issues such as sleep dis and an inability to sleep in prison. Uncle B has now been sentenced to 6 weeks in prison.